I'm getting my second video done, and I'm really excited. So, I thought I'd talk about, like a lot of people do, like, oh, favorites for this month and that month and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't have a huge favorites haul, but there are two movies I'd like to talk about that I recently picked up that I keep watching, and I'm the kind of person who I'm not very good at watching, like, new movies. I have a tendency of rewatching over and over and over and over again the same movie because I feel I see something new each time I watch it. But I was going through Netflix and I saw this one show that I kind of wanted to watch, but I didn't know the premise behind it. I didn't know anything about the story behind it. So that was kind of one of the reasons I watched one of these movies. And then the other movie was one that I watched once, I don't know how many years ago, back when I was in high school. And I didn't think too much of it at the time. I remembered it was very, very quirky and that I enjoyed it. But my dad bought it for me a while ago at a pawn shop, and I rewatched it and I forgot just how good it was. And they're both kind of, both these movies have to do with, like, well, one of them has a bigger premise to it. It's kind of like religion and prejudice and mental problems. And then the other one is just mental problems. And basically to not steal from your boss. So the first movie, eye itchy. Yes. The first movie is Sling Blade, and I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. It's Billy Bob Thornton and other people that I don't know, but mostly Billy Bob Thornton. And that movie it's one of those movies where I think that you have to be really, I don't want to say you have to be a really deep person to get the bigger message or to, like, kind of tap into it. But I think at just a face value, people will think it's not as deep as it actually is. It's kind of not very climactic. It's kind of it sort of plateaus and it just kind of just stays there. But I think if you keep watching it, there's definitely you tap into more of the emotional parts of it, and you become a bit more sympathetic or empathetic towards certain characters and stuff. In that movie, I've seen Billy Bob Thornton in a few things, but I didn't realize it was him for a long time. And this movie definitely tackles prejudice, and not the kind of prejudice that I think people, it's not a kind of a racist or anything battling ethnic or, well, gender roles are kind of in there, but it's mostly preconceptions that people have towards people who are mentally troubled. And I thought it was very interesting because I suppose I grew up in a neighborhood where there were some mentally troubled people. And when I say trouble, I don't mean like they're murders or anything. I just don't like the word handicapped. But I mean, I went to elementary school, with a few mentally handicapped people, and they stayed, within my school district until we graduated high school. So I've been around kind of the same people for most of my life. I'm just trying to think. I think there was such an innocence in my mind when I was that young that I guess I didn't assume that they were very different. I've never had a problem with mentally handicapped or disabled people. It's never bothered me. I suppose the only time it does upset me, but this is with, like, anyone. If people start yelling, because they're frustrated, even with little kids throwing fits, I have an issue. But when I was younger, I mean, it took me forever. It took me until I was in middle school to notice race, as unbelievable as that sounds. I never thought of honest to God, I didn't notice that anybody looked different. It never occurred to me, until middle school. It just never hit me that I was different than anybody else, or anybody else was different from me. It just never occurred to me. So with that being said, this movie kind of does tackle, how people treat mentally handicapped or disabled people, and it's really heartwarming, but at the same time really, really frustrating when you're dealing with the people who are prejudiced towards people like that. There's also a bit of a gender issue. There's some, I don't want to say wife beating, but because they're not married. But there is abusive relationships and gender roles put in this film that really, you kind of just want to kick somebody's ass and kill someone. And it's a really good movie. If you guys haven't seen it, be prepared to be maybe confused. But it's a piece of work all on its own. A piece of art, all in its own kind of way. It's very, moving. It's very subtly moving, and I don't think you will realize how it's hit you until the end of the movie. And then you kind of be like, holy shit, sort of a thing. The second movie that I hadn't seen, and this is the one I'm talking about on Netflix, I had seen Bates Motel on Netflix. And I loved Freddie Highmore when he was younger, even though I hadn't seen him in a whole lot of shit, but he was a great child actor. And, I'm scrolling through Netflix trying to pass time, and I see Bates Motel. Well, I wanted to watch it, but I knew that it was attached to Psycho, and I had never seen Psycho. I didn't know anything. Well, I knew about the part in the shower, but other than that, I didn't know anything about the premise of the story. So, you guys, I made the mistake of buying Psycho, and I have not been able to stop watching it. And it's so brilliant that, like, I keep watching it because the plot of it, first of all, Anthony Perkins he's fantastic for the role of Norman Bates. He plays borderline, awkward, kind of schizophrenic. He just plays like that jittery kind of nervous guy so perfectly to a T. You see the jaw clenching, you see his eyes, he's blinking a lot, you see him swallowing a lot, he's twitching a lot. He does it so well. And I don't watch a whole lot of movies from the 60s and stuff, and I knew it was Hitchcock. I hadn't seen any Hitchcock things before. I know, shame on me. I hadn't seen any Alfred Hitchcock movies before, and so I was kind of like, I know that he has a good rap, but I don't know about, like, if the acting will be up to my standards, if I'll like it, if the dialogue will be good. And you guys, it was the shit. Like, I can see... Sorry, Frankie's kind of itchy. Each. That movie is so freaking good. If you haven't seen Psycho, you guys need to watch it. I had to buy it on Amazon Prime. I couldn't find it anywhere else. I ended up... bought it on Amazon Prime, so it's stuck on my TV. But I also ordered it on Amazon, like, the DVD, for when I move. So, other people can enjoy it. And that movie is just, it's so good. The girl who plays Marion Crane, first of all, her eyebrows are on fleek. Her eyebrows are, like, perfectly shaped and formed and filled in, and they're just beautiful. Second of all, her voice is, like, so calming. I don't know what it is about, like, these old movies, but the women's voices are, like, so... You don't hear people with those voices anymore. Where did the voice go? You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's just one of those things where their voices were very, very different than how they are now, and I'm trying to figure out why. I think it's very interesting. But you guys, I can't ruin the plot line for you guys if you haven't seen Psycho, but definitely, near the end, it was like, less than 5 minutes towards the end of the movie. I made my friend watch it yesterday, and, there's a part where, Norman is handed off a blanket, and you don't see him, but you hear his voice through a wall, and my friend was watching, and she was like, you know, she got really, really scared, and she was like, that was so creepy. I'm like, I know. It's so good. There are definitely parts of it that are cheesy because, you know, it's the 1960s and they can only do so much gore, and murder. But, I guess that was kind of you guys, if you don't know that people get killed in Psycho, then that's sad. But yeah, people get killed. And, it was so totally not what I was expecting at all. Because I knew about the one, the infamous, you know, scene that everybody knows about. And if you don't know about it, then I am not going to tell you, and that's pretty sad. But other than that, I had no idea what was going to happen. And at the end of it, I was like, holy shit, this movie's great, you know? And it definitely, like, there are different... It's so complicated, my feelings for Norman, because in the beginning of the movie, I really just wanted to give him a hug. I actually thought he was really cute and endearing, and I have a soft spot for the awkward, like, gangly people, especially guys. I kind of just want to hug them, and I told my friend, I'm like, I would have dated him in high school. But even at the end of it, I couldn't help but feeling sorry for him. Like, I was super creeped out. I'm like, oh, you know. But then there's kind of this thing, it's like, could he help what he did? You know, was it really all his fault because he wasn't, you know, really there? I don't know. There was kind of a mixed feeling that you kind of are super creeped out by him, but at the same time you kind of feel bad for him because it wasn't really all in his control. I don't know. I have a whole massive different kind of sympathy now for mentally unstable people. And I guess it depends on how unstable they are. There's some point where I think that, you know, like, if you hit a point, well, especially back then, there wasn't a whole lot you could do for help in the 1960s, or maybe there was. I don't think that there was, though. But nowadays, it's like, if you chose to not get help, and you went off the deep end, I have a rough time feeling sympathetic for you, but if you kept trying to get help and it wasn't working out, and, you know, your brain was just kind of so meh, I kind of, you know, there's some things that are really out of your control. But I'm just saying, it's kind of, you have to try to get help. That's kind of my line. Anyways, but you guys, Psycho is so freaking good. And I know, they did a remake of it with Vince Vaughn. Haven't seen that. But I also know from the Hitchcock films, they did 3 other films. So there's Psycho, then Psycho 2, 3, and 4. And I'm a little bit apprehensive. Like, I want to know what happens in the other ones, but I'm so afraid that they're not going to be as good as the first, and it will kind of, like, ruin my feelings about the first. So if you guys have seen the other movies, let me know if I should watch the other movies, because I'm kind of apprehensive about it. But you guys, those are the movies I've been watching recently. Right now I'm watching Forrest Gump. I think I kind of hit a weird place where I've been watching too many of these films, and I started having, like, really bad dreams, so I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit. Yeah, I've been having kind of really bad nightmares about my friends getting killed. So, yeah, if you're sensitive to, scary films, I didn't really think it was scary, it was more like a psychological thriller. Maybe you shouldn't watch it. Again, it's from 1960, so it's a bit cheesy, but, you know, if you're really sensitive and you're on sleeping drugs like I am, melatonin, that kind of trips out your brain when you sleep, makes you have very vivid dreams, maybe don't watch it. Yeah. Okay.